case you haven't caught on, I just slid my dick down your throat, and you thanked me for it.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. So today I will be going over and breaking down the newest episode of The Walking Dead, episode 704, Service. This is a 90-minute special and is essentially based around Negan visiting Alexandria for his first time. He collects his first round of supplies from the community, along with tons of foreshadowing of events to come. This episode is very comic book heavy, but it's adapted in about the best way possible. Spoilers for anything from Season 7 Episode 4, and let's jump right into it. So this episode starts with Rick and Michonne as they unknowingly wake up for the last time on their bed. We see Michonne getting up and grabbing the sniper out of the chimney as he watches. Michonne grabbing the sniper was actually a preview for the episode, and it is a hidden rifle, meaning it was unaccounted for as far as the community is aware. She takes said sniper out into a random field with an old truck in the middle, and starts practicing her sniper skills. She fails horribly though, as she needs to finish the job with her sword. Back at Alexandria, Rick is checking on Judith as Rosita and Spencer roll up to the gate to meet Eugene. So it turns out that the Give Them What They Want preview was actually at the beginning of the episode as we thought. This is a minor complaint for me, but I really wish that they spent at least just 5 minutes showing the initial reactions at Alexandria. I would have liked to see the way certain people reacted to the situation, following with shock and arguing. Instead, we just jump forward a few days since the premiere. Rosita and Spencer wanted to go out and gather more supplies for the Saviors. Eugene even wanted to do his own thing, fixing a music player to help accompany them. I've gone through the previews for this episode in my previous video, where pretty much they get caught with their pants down as Negan walks right up to the gate.
Dun 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 dun. Little pig, let me in.
Spencer greets him, asking who is he, which made me roll my eyes as much as Negan, who jokes about how he should have made a big enough introduction.
Well,
Who are you?
oh, you better be joking. Negan, Lucille, I know I had to make a pretty strong first impression.
Now let me say right now that this episode is very Negan-centric, and I don't have a problem with that. If you've heard me talk about JDM before, then you know that I think he practically kills it every time he's on screen. His charisma and personality flows so well through the character, which really helps to truly bring Negan to the big screen. Negan gives a funny monologue to start off the episode, including the name of it, Service.
Hey, Rick, you see that? What I just did? That is some service. I mean, we almost get turned away at the gate. Who is that guy anyway? Do I get mad? Do I throw a fit? Do I bash some ginger's dome in? Nope. I just take care of one of these dead pricks that could have killed one of y'all. Service.
After that, he hands Rick Lucille and makes him hold it the entire time he's there. This was a huge moment from the comics, and I'm glad we got to see so much of it. I was really hoping Rick would be stuck with holding Lucille throughout Negan's visit, but we'll get back to that later. There are so many comic book lines and scenarios in this episode which should make all comic book fans giddy, as it's always enjoyable seeing them transfer those lines in a fitting way. When Rick tries to approach Daryl to speak to him, Negan threatens everyone to not look at him or talk to him. The fact that he brought Daryl with him was a very good tactic on Negan's part. Rick and group gets to see that he's still alive, but at the same time they see how crushed his spirit is as he just stands in that prisoner uniform completely lifeless. Dwight starts looting all of the guns off of Rosita and Spencer, and then asks them to retrieve Daryl's bike for him. He even takes Rosita's hat and dumps out all of her water, adding insult to injury. The Saviors really try to push everyone's buttons in this episode, as they seem to get whatever they want. This ties into Negan spouting out more hilarious dialogue as he preaches the idea of them actually being quite friendly once you get to know them.
See this? This is the kind of thing that just tickles my balls. A little cooperation, and everything is pleasant as punch. You see, we really are reasonable people once you get to know us. Honest.
To a certain extent, yeah, somewhat, I guess. I mean, Negan will try to be nice to you and act all buddy-buddy as long as you understand his place and your own. If you fall in line for him, he doesn't want to try to make the situation any more difficult than it has to be, as long as they're getting the shit that they want. It's quite funny, as Negan tries to constantly break this social barrier while trying to act so friendly and happy all the time. The Saviors, on the other hand, are so rude and greedy, and they're just nasty people no matter what, which will come into play very soon here. As Rick is showing Negan around Alexandria, one of the Saviors come up to them with a camera, the same camera that has the old tapes of when Rick's group first got to Alexandria. The interviews Deanna recorded of them, to be exact. I really love how Negan finds these, and I almost hope that we get to see more time with them, as I'd like to see Negan's reactions with them. This is very useful information for him, as he gets to see a window into their backstory and see what they were really like when they weren't worried about being judged by him, before they even knew he existed. Negan also makes a new video on the camera, almost vlogging how Rick isn't the same man anymore, pointing the camera at him and smiling. And then he starts bringing up Maggie, asking about her and wanting to meet her. This gets briefly interrupted by Father Gabriel, as he almost makes Negan jump out of shock. The impression that he gives Gabriel is absolutely hilarious, but sadly he does circle back to asking about Maggie. Rick makes up a lie and tells him that she didn't make it, and out of all the stress and considering the condition she was already in, it is somewhat believable. Now apparently Gabriel randomly thought about this and actually dug a third grave to back up Rick's story. This was good thinking on Gabriel's part, even though it might have not come into play anyways. It's always good to be better safe than sorry. So this lie towards Negan hides the fact that Maggie went to Hilltop with Sasha, as bringing up the Hilltop would just cause another world of issues, I'm sure. As Negan is jokingly mocking her, Rick starts gripping Lucille quite hard out of rage and is getting actually really offended at the fact that Negan was going off talking about her. He actually talks about how he wanted to bring her back with him, quite possibly implying that he wants her to be one of his wives. This conversation never gets to conclude though, as it is randomly interrupted with a gunshot. Negan's expression immediately changes as he stares at Rick, and he does not look impressed one bit. We come to find that it is in fact Carl holding the gun, threatening some of the Saviors who were taking too many supplies. This scene is actually transferred over from the comics, as it was originally Denise holding the gun, but she's obviously not around to see the day anymore. This is where Negan walks in and sets the rules straight. Negan's half is whatever he says it is, implying that they can take whatever they want and however much of it they want. As Negan said at the beginning, he decides what is half and what isn't. After a short talk with Negan, Carl gives up his gun in defeat and continues letting them take what they like. I was honestly so excited to see any interactions between Carl and Negan, but sadly the altercation concludes with Negan demanding to see all of their guns. I'm still hoping that Carl will, in one way or another, make it to the sanctuary. Yes, his story will have to be changed and reworked, considering his age is older than in the comics at this point, along with the fact that Daryl is already there. I have no clue how Carl will end up in this situation, but I would absolutely love to see him witness the inner workings of the sanctuary, and who knows, maybe he'd have to hold Lucille for Negan as well. So back to the episode. Rick brings Negan to meet Olivia, who is the girl with the glasses that keeps track of their supplies. Negan realizes that they are running low on food and lets Rick know that he can keep it all this time, as he doesn't want them starving. We actually get another funny comic book line as Negan jokes about how he can't be the only one to notice that they have a fat girl in charge of the rations.
And I can't be the only one to notice that you got a fat lady in charge of keeping track of rations, can I?
Now, I'm sure Olivia isn't anything like Hugo from Lost, stealing all of the food or whatever, but you know, it is a funny coincidence that the overweight woman is the one in charge of the food. Rick and Negan stand outside of the armory as the Saviors help pack everything up. Negan picks up one of the pistols that Daryl is carrying back to his truck, and shoots out a window with it. He is jokingly testing to see if Rick is taking good care of his weapons, since half of them were probably originally his anyways. He also gets brought the RPG that Daryl used to blow up the group of Saviors on the road, and realizes that it was them who did it, since everyone else who found out at that warehouse with Maggie and Carol ended up being murdered at the end of it. And then we reach yet another altercation, as two pistols seem to be missing from their inventory. Negan and Rick both agreed that everything was in there, which obviously is not the case. Negan feels incredibly disrespected from this, as he gives Olivia an incredibly hard time for screwing up and not writing down the inventory correctly. It's not just the fact that Negan doesn't want to trust them with a few weapons, it has to do with the principle of the matter as well. Negan tells Rick that he needs to make sure that everyone is on board, as Negan can't have any rebellions building inside of the walls. Rick then gathers a small town meeting and tries explaining the situation to the Alexandrians, telling them that if they don't find the two guns, the Saviors will kill Olivia. This answers the question of context of Rick's awaited speech of the episode. Once again, I would have liked to see a speech like this on the day Rick got back from episode 701. I wanted this speech to completely mirror the previous one he gave last season as they marched towards the compound. This speech took a different turn than most were expecting, as the core reason of it was so Rick could organize a search for the guns. Bottom line, I feel like this speech could have been a lot more influential and had a lot more potential, especially if they would have portrayed a different opening to the entire episode, recapping how the Alexandrians have been dealing with the situation since it all started. Anyways, during this meeting, Eric stands up asking how they could possibly get out of this situation, and only gets the answer, there is no way out. I couldn't help but notice how this calls back to the obvious No Way Out story arc of last season, and how it implies that they are once again trapped inside of Alexandria with no way out. The thing is though, this time the enemy is way more smart, and honestly way more dangerous when it comes down to it. Eugene then realizes that people are missing from the meeting, and it cuts to Rosita walking through the forest. So rewinding back to Rosita and Spencer getting Daryl's bike back for Dwight, Spencer is trying to learn to accept life under Negan's command, trying to talk it through with her as he loads up the bike. She is obviously distracted though, as she has other plans, as Spencer witnesses her entering the forest with a knife. We get a shot of some pretty epic maneuvers from her as she uses a giant tree to her advantage to deke out the zombies. I'm glad that they added in some zombie killing action, as Rosita definitely proves that she can defend herself. I'm pretty sure that Rosita confirms this later on while talking to Dwight, but aren't those the walkers that are actually reanimated saviors from the firefight between them at the end of season 6? It would tie in nicely as they were shot and left to bleed out and die. It would make sense that they would reanimate, and they haven't been able to get very far. Either way, as Spencer catches up to her, she reveals that she did all of this for a gun, and is not willing to accept this as their life like Spencer has. She asks him if he'll tell on her even though the gun has no ammo, to which he just turns around and walks away, not giving her any straight answer. Back at Alexandria, after the town meeting, Gabriel tells Rick about his faith in their community, and that they'll get through all of this, somehow. This conversation takes place as Rick is tearing apart Spencer's house looking for the guns, as he's stolen and hidden things to himself in the past. Aaron enters and says that he's cleared Rosita's house and continues the search in Spencer's garage. Rick finds Spencer's secret stash of supplies in a floor vent, including both of the missing guns in a bag, giving a brief moment of relief on his face. On Rick's way back to deliver the guns to Negan, he stops to notice Enid getting given a hard time by one of the saviors, who is actually taking her green balloons. These are very sentimental and important to her because they are the same balloons that Glenn used with her to signal Alexandria that they were okay back in season 6A. He ends up giving them back to her, but not before dropping them on the ground. Yet another example of the saviors being pushy assholes, insult to injury, regardless of the fact that they are completely getting their way. So Rick hands over the pistols to Negan, and after he gets them, he once again tells Rick to make sure that everyone is on board, because if that's not the case, it's back to square one, and we wouldn't want a second lineup now, would we? Rick sees Michonne back from her sniper practice and asks Negan for a moment, who eventually agrees after seeing her himself. Rick runs over and greets her, but she immediately notices Lucille in his hand, taking great offense to it. He tries telling her that Negan made him hold it, and how horrible he feels about it. He stresses to her how much he can't lose anyone else, and that they need to give all of their weapons back to the saviors or else people will die. I think it was a good idea for Rick to give up the sniper, and a good call, as it helps build trust between him and Negan. If Rick wanted to hide weapons, he would have already done it by now. But from what he said in this episode, we can clearly come to the conclusion that he has decided that it's not worth it and that it's too risky. Negan actually congratulates Rick on getting the message and falling in line. As he hands over Michonne's sniper rifle, Negan realizes that Rick wants to make the right moves, and he tells him that things will work out for the both of them. Because Rick feels like he's on better terms now, he asks for Daryl to come back. Negan lets Daryl plead his case, to which he stays silent. Daryl is honestly starting to annoy me and crush me with how silent he has been. Like, I get why, but I'd appreciate something. Negan laughs this off and tells Rick, well, at least you tried. After that's over and done with, Negan pulls an instant 180, telling Rick that if they don't provide more for next time they come, that someone will die. This is far from over, and Negan wants to make sure that Rick and his people understand that. He declares that he wants something very interesting to satisfy himself next time, and no more magic guns. We get another salty back and forth between Dwight and Rosita as he takes Daryl's bike from them. He once again gives Daryl the option to join the Saviors, even bribing him with his bike if he would just call himself Negan, but gets no answer as well.
You can have it back. Just say the word.
Negan taunts Rick once again, saying that they will both come out of the situation's winners, even though that obviously isn't the case. He takes out another zombie in front of Rick, telling him to watch his form. Rick once again tightens his grip on Lucille during this in anger and frustration, but once he sees Negan's form mimicking his swings taking out Abe and Glenn, he loosens it again. In this moment, along with the rest of the episode, Rick's look changes from being defiant to being completely broken, the look that Negan wanted on him multiple times. I feel like his urge to fight back is still building up inside of him, and he's doing everything within his power to hold back and fall in line. As Negan asks Rick for Lucille back, he says yet another two great comic book lines.
Oh, wait. How careless of me. You didn't think I was gonna leave Lucille, did you? I mean, after what she did, why would you want her? Thank you for being so accommodating, friend.
I absolutely love how much they follow the comics at certain parts, but also improve on it in so many ways, bringing it to life on TV in the best way possible.
In case you haven't caught on, I just slid my dick down your throat, and you thanked me for it.
The Saviors leave Rick's group with two dead bodies on the ground that both have smashed-in heads, resembling the end of 701. They do a lot of subtle throwbacks like this that you may not notice on your first time watching through the episode. I know that personally sometimes I rewatch an episode 3 to 4 times and noticed more and more each time. The season 7 premiere is a prime example for that. And the way that they're telling the story so far is brilliant. I don't mind that this season has been crafted in a different way, as it's giving the show a completely new feel overall. One thing about shows when they drag on for so many seasons is just that they feel the same or they get worse, and although season 7 hasn't been the most intense, action-packed season, it is honestly fresh and I love it, and it just feels so professional, and I love the way that they've crafted it. After Negan and the Saviors leave, Rick confronts Spencer on the missing guns, telling him that they were going to kill Olivia. Spencer gives him a lot of crappy attitude, but Rick obviously doesn't take it well. This all makes me more and more excited for the possible mid-season finale cliffhanger, as we may see if Spencer really has the guts that he thinks he has. Anyways, Rosita confronts him on the fact that he had these guns, and he tells her that she was right, that this does not have to be their life after all. In the third to last scene, we get a shocking reveal and explanation that fans have been waiting on for years. This got me so hyped to hear as it finally gave answers. First off, Rick tells Michonne about Shane while he's making their beds on the ground, and how Shane was with Lori. He finally admits that he knows that Judith isn't his daughter, a confession that fans thought would never happen on the TV show.
I know Judith isn't mine. I know it. I love her. She's my daughter, but she isn't mine. I had to accept that. I did, so I could keep her alive.
Something along the lines of this conversation happened in the comics a long time ago, as it was way more obvious that Shane was the father. It was concluded fairly quickly in the comics compared to the TV show, which left a lot of unanswered questions. This honestly came out of nowhere in my eyes, but I enjoy it when they bring back previous events or characters in a way that suits the current story. When you really think about it, Michonne has never met Shane or even Lori, as they were both dead by the time she brought back the baby formula to the prison in season 3, so it was good for her to learn more of Rick's past and what he has gone through. Michonne tries making him feel better by saying that everything isn't his fault, but Rick admits that sometimes it is his fault when people die, and that he needs to accept this new way of life, along with Michonne and everyone else, so that people can live, or else this won't work. Michonne tells him that she's going to try, which is more than can be said about some people. The next day, Michonne goes out to the same field she was once training with the sniper. She notices smoke and follows it, eventually finding that the Saviors burned their mattresses. They didn't even need them. They just took them to fuck with Alexandria. Yet another case of insult to injury. Michonne looks frickin' pissed, and we saw her expression in the trailer. I thought that she was staring at someone who was just killed or something like that, not just a pile of burned mattresses. Regardless, we can see how much this pisses her off, as she pretty much just told Rick that she's gonna try and live and accept this. They stole their beds just to burn them? It seems like the saviors are trying a bit too hard to taunt them and bully them. Yeah, it's a part of their job to be like this, but there's such a thing as overkill. What do you guys think of the saviors and the way they raided Alexandria? I believe that they should be acting this way definitely, but as I said, there's such a thing as too much, and that they need to find a healthy balance to keep Alexandria in line. If you've read the comics, how do you think they handled this episode in regards to all the moments lining up? I believe that they did the comics justice by bringing to life many moments that we had only dreamed of. In the final scene of the episode, Rosita is seen picking up the empty bullet shell that Negan shot and bringing it to Eugene, demanding him to make her ammo. This was a great way to spark the story arc with Eugene as far as his usefulness will continue. He had already found the ammo factory with Abraham in last season, so this should all play out together nicely. What do you guys think of this episode? Feel free to leave any opinions in the comments section below, along with any other missable details that I might have looked over. I'd really appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today. Since this episode was a longer special, this breakdown has been quite a lengthy one as well. Finally, I do apologize if I sounded a bit odd in this video, as I've been recently getting over a nasty chest and head cold. That's pretty much it though, guys. Check out my other videos for more Walking Dead related content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.